So one thing I notice a lot when I'm doing massages is whether if somebody starts off with their arms on top of the blanket or inside the blanket, because it makes a little difference how I can drape. If their arms are over the blanket, I don't want to necessarily correct them, because if they're comfortable that way, they're comfortable that way, and I don't want to make them feel claustrophobic or too hot. But if she had start with her arms down, and when I get around to that leg, it's going to be blocking my arm, or my access to the leg. So if that's happening, I might even work both arms, like this arm first and then tuck, and then this arm and then tuck. So if I do that, I can get to her leg easier. In our flow, we're doing it around the body. So in that case, what I would say is if you're getting to this, if that's happening, and you've already worked the arm, so it's tucked under the blanket, you work this leg, and you get to this arm, this leg. Before you work on the leg, I would tuck the arm in just so that you can tuck up to this point on the leg so that you can get to it. Otherwise, you'll get there and you'll be like trying to struggle with their arm and it will get awkward. So. Yeah, would you like to bolster your knees?
Sure. She just kind of.
And I like to try to make sure this bolster goes underneath the warm thing, like underneath the heating pad, which I have. You guys have just a foam pad or a fleece pad, so if you put it right under the sheet only, it might still feel cold to them. Okay. So once I'm finished with her arms, pardon me, my hands are kind of cold. I might tuck them in. She's got her arms like this, so I'm going to just keep it like same way she had it. And then I might push against some of the limbs. I know I theoretically have oil in my hands, so I'll just do a little bit. Just work my way down, so making my worm going, and it already starts to feel good. And I'm going to undrape really wide. The blanket can go all the way off of the leg. And then the sheet will be tucked. I'm going to grab from the knee and about the mid-thigh and kind of do this swooping slide and tuck at the same time. Do not just tuck, 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 tuck. It's going to be so annoying to them. I feel like you're wasting their time and all that. So you just want to do a swooping tuck in one sweep. Alright, so I'm applying some lotion. I'm trying to warm up my hand a little bit.
Lotion is
Right, start from the base of the foot and just do a gliding stroke all the way up. So I'm using the palm of my hand and I'm angling outward, and then I'm going all the way up to the top of the trochanter where I can feel the bone on the side of the hip. And sweeping back down. So it's kind of a long integrated stroke. And then I'll go back up and tracing tibialis anterior on this right lateral side of the tibia. Getting some knee strokes in. And then we're doing the same thing again from palm to palms, off of the leg. And then I switch to a knuckle so I can go a little deeper. And you guys can come around here if it's easier to see since I'm on the far side from you. And I should be able to get this so that I can feel the beginning of the hip under my knuckles. So I'm feeling her hip bone start in there, so that's when I know I've reached the top of the leg. If she's somebody who likes firm pressure, Maddie, do you like deep pressure? Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry, I wore the wrong. I wore the wrong thing. I don't normally do this during a massage. Thank you. So then I'll go for, after I've warmed the tissue up with some lighter strokes, I'll use my whole arm and start from the medial part. Otherwise this is going to bump over the sartorius. So I'm starting from the inside and then working my way out. All the way up to the hip. And there might still be a little bumping, so I have to make sure I'm compensating for that so that it's gentler this second time. Even though she might like the pressure, is the pressure okay for you? It never feels good if somebody's like bumping over your bone, muscles and bones, so you don't want to have that bumping feeling. Alright, and then I like to make sure I'm getting the IT band and TFL as well, so I'm coming back down. So my move there, I don't know if you saw, is like I'm tracing down the leg with my left hand, and then my right hand stops here to start warming up the IT band while I get to the foot to hold on to it. And then I'm rotating the foot inward so that I have good access to the IT band, and then I use my knuckle to go up the side. And then as I get to the top, I let go of my foot hold so it can rotate back, and then I rotate again. This is tight on everybody, so it's really good one. Yeah, and some people like more pressure than others, but that's a good starting point. And then I'll trace back up here to the knee. I'm running a little low on my lotions, and then reapply. And this is a good place to start getting into both the knee stuff, but also the medial part of the leg where there's all these adductor muscles that are kind of hard to reach. So do them both at the same time, and down here where it feels really safe. And then I can also start doing some friction across, and I just use big angles, so I'm not going to go into the underneath of the draping. Just going to change the angle as I go up and down the leg. And all the way off the foot again. And then I'm going to use my thumbs to trace tibialis anterior again. And then make sure I get these below and above the patella. Anybody know what ligaments I'm palpating when I do this?
Ligaments or tendons?
Ligaments.
As far as ACL?
Yeah. PCL and
ACL.
ACL. Yep. So common sports injuries, so we want to make sure we strengthen them. So I'm working the knee and also all the attachments around the knee. Use my thumbs to spread apart, and then pushing with pressure downwards on the thinner eminences of my hand on the sides of the calf. Back up to tibialis anterior. I like to get the knee, the ACL every time because it's so feels good and it's a tender, sensitive, vulnerable spot. Maybe not tender and sensitive on everybody, but often can be. It's another variation of this, which Wendy does in her massages, which I started using because I liked it so much, which is just I'm holding the ankle and I'm tracing the medial part of the leg up to the knee and around. Just with my fingertips and my thumb. And then I do the lateral side, making sure I'm on tibialis anterior and then around all these IT band attachments at the bottom on the knee. And then you can do circles around the ankles, fanning out the metatarsals. And then I like to hold on to the great toe while I wiggle each of the toes from the metatarsal. And then I'm gripping onto the heel and squeezing it in my hand. Kind of feels good to me too because it pushes against all my hypothenar muscles. And that gives me my chance to get into different positions, so I can put a thumb into the heel, and I could kneel as well instead of just squatting. Depends on what I'm wearing and how I feel. And I use my thumbs to trace up the center of the foot and hold this good reflex point right here. Right in the bottom center of the foot. And it's a good one to hold for like a while, 30 seconds. You might feel the body kicking around, little reflexes and things like that. And then I usually trace up and make sure I get on top of this part of the foot, below the toes. A variation of that I learned from a reflexology video, which is what I'm doing a shortcut for, is this, just squeezing the whole toe part of the foot downward, putting my fingers and thumbs around that spot in the foot. But you can also get some of that effect by just using your thumbs along there as you go up. And then a really important way to get the thorough foot massage feeling, oil, is to trace up each of the metatarsals, each of the foot, lines of the foot. So I'm going to wiggle the toes a little bit and pull my hand off the foot, but in order to not lose contact, I'm keeping my other hand solidly on the heel and the arch. And I'll switch to my other hand when I get to the great toe so that I don't have to reach across the whole foot. Making sure I give a good wiggle in the meaty middle of the foot, of the toe, I mean. And then this is a reflexology thing. You could do this to each toe, but I like to at least do it to the big toe. Alright. And then for the top of the foot, don't forget, I do some tracing between each of the metatarsals. And then just gliding back up toward the body and around the ankles again. And at this point you could do some stretches or some other stuff that you have learned, but I will end this with just a jostling. And I can do this while I continue and re-drape. And slowly pull my hand off the foot. And I'll switch to the other side by keeping contact from one foot to the other. Starting at the knee and the mid-thigh and swooping up, tucking under the same side. Glide motion starting here at the bottom of the foot with my right hand, my inside hand, and the outside hand is going up the outside of the thigh, the leg to the thigh. All the way up to the greater trochanter. Swoop my bottom hand off the foot and keep my top hand on while I come back so I don't lose contact. Thumbs up the tibialis anterior to ACL, patella. Looks like you have a bruise there. Is it sensitive? Okay. And then I can start doing some gliding again on the upper leg. Applying some firm pressure. And then I'll switch to my fist so I can be a little bit deeper. And then she likes deep pressure, so I'm going to use my forearm, and I did a little roll to make sure I'm pushing outward against the leg instead of going straight up, so it might bump over the muscles. It's going to just glide along the whole fascia of the muscle, like the same direction as the fibers. I'm really using my body mechanics to lean into it. And then I'm going to glide that hand down toward the foot while this one lands at the knee. So I can warm up the IT band, rotate the leg inward to give access, and then use my knuckle to go up the IT band. this elbow planted in my side to kind of give me some leverage. I don't have to use my arm muscles, I'm just using my body weight. And then I'm gonna help relax again, like their legs have been pushed in medially to get that IT band, so then this kind of brings it back to center, and getting me a chance to work on the adductor muscles, IT band attachments, knee, all this stuff at one time. It's getting a little dry, so I'm going to apply. And then I'll do a little gliding. All the way up and down the leg. I'm going to use my thumbs again, go up to the Alice anterior, back to the knee. Try and get under the patella here where it gets to the cruciate ligament joints. I'm using my thumbs on top of the knee and my fingertips on the sides of the knee. You can get a lot of bang for your buck this way, accessing a lot of stuff at one time. And then I'm transitioning from that into squeezing the sides of the calves. Do that 3 times. Pressure still okay? And you can also do the same thing I did on the other side, where I use my fingertips, go up the medial side of the calf, around this knee joint, and back down lightly, up deeply, and then away lightly. Deep pressure, around and light, and then switch to the other side. Circles around the ankle. I notice my hands drying out a little bit, but I'm not going to apply more now because it doesn't really require much on the bottoms of the feet. Kind of keeps them from slipping and falling when they get down off the table. And it also, reflexology traditionally is not done with oils at all, so you can do a reflexology massage by just walking your fingers instead of gliding them into those points. I'm going to show you a little bit here. I'm wiggling those metatarsals, and then I'm gripping underneath the heel and squeezing. Feels good for my hand too. And then I'm transitioning my left hand to hold onto the heel while I squat down. Using my thumbs to trace up the middle of the bottom of the foot to this reflex point in the center. You can just hold on to it for a few seconds. It's a good chance to check in with yourself, check that your client is breathing deeply and comfortable. And then I'm going to trace my fingers up to the top where the toes meet the foot and pull back down so I can pull along this different plane. And then back down the sides to begin tracing up each of the toe lines. But I'll also demonstrate that in reflexology, you would do this same movement but with a thumb walk. So it would be more like this. And I think of it more like taking a little bite. Your thumb is taking a little bite, so it walks up each
possible place it can grip on. And then each toe you can roll your finger along the top of the toe. Pressure point thumb walk. And I'm only doing this right now on the bottom of the foot, but you can also go around the perimeter of the foot doing this, including between each of the toes. And you would get all the way up onto the top of the foot between the toes, following the lines of the metatarsals until they don't have much space between them, and then you turn around and go down the next one. So I might show you that too, but like 3 toes we'll do this way, and I'll go back to the way I did it the other foot to show you. This is what I recommend for a normal length of time for the feet. If they want extra time on the feet, I would do that pressure point walk. If they want a normal amount of time, just a normal full body, you might not have time to do all that detail work. You can just do a deep pressure gliding along each of those metatarsals all the way up. I still like to include this for the big toe. So for my top of the foot normal amount of time, I would just do a little couple strokes between each of these metatarsals. If you're doing the full reflexology, thumb walk around the whole perimeter of the foot. Once you get to the inside of each of these toes, you would walk all the way up between these metatarsals until they kind of meet together, and then switch to the other side and walk back down. My fingernails are a little bit long, sorry. So you just continue all the way around. I felt a little crunch, which is good. Some fascia was loosening up. So you'd walk all the way around the foot this way, and then once you get down to the heel, you might do a few circles on the heel. So that would be how you do a foot reflexology massage, but for this purpose, I'm just going to go back to gliding on the top of the foot. I'll finish with some circles on the ankle. Could do some stretches if I want to, so here's some easy ankle rotations. You can also cup the heel in your hand and put the bottom of the foot against your forearm, support the knee, and just lean the foot forward. This should be a hamstring stretch, but for a lot of people, or sorry, it should be a calf stretch, but for most people it's a hamstring stretch. Did I say that wrong? I said that wrong twice. It should be a calf stretch, but for most people who have tight hamstrings, it's a hamstring stretch. Alright. And then to end, I'll just do some jostling like this. And then I'm ready to go up to the side to do the second arm. Thank you.